What up, everyone? This is Mr. Lord Dr. Professor Dark Joker here with another edition of Traditional Fans with Opinions, where I'll give my reviews for whoever I watched, read, or played today. And who are traditional fans with opinions? That is myself, and that is you, the viewers. With all that being said, on with the reviews. One Piece, Season 22, Episode 2. So in this episode, so Nami wakes up. She wakes up basically wearing this like Viking-esque clothing, and so like she's trying to figure out where she's at, and then like outside you see like the basically the giants seeing these bees like fall out, so like they're attacked by something. Basically, like they're attacked by like Luffy, Zoro, Sanji, where and so the giants war's going on. So and Nami attacks some bees with like basically her staff, with Zeus. And then she finds Usopp, who's being attacked by some giant cat. And so they basically run for the cat. Now they remember they remember one giant mentioning that the alcohol they drink could cause hallucinations. So Usopp thinks maybe it's a hallucination. So he lets the cat when they get to the edge, he lets the cat attack him, thinking it's a hallucination. Yeah, it knocks the crap out of him. and And so Nami like bangs his chest, saying like, "Usopp, don't die, don't die." Then when the cat goes out, she like uses Usopp as like a human shield. And then Luffy, Zoro, and Sanji arrive and defeat the cat. And Luffy says he doesn't want to eat the cat. So apparently, I guess he ate some rabbit earlier. And then yeah, so basically then so like then they think they're wondering why they're wearing the new outfit whatever. And so basically I like this area looks like giant Legos, like essentially what it looks like Legos. And yeah, so Luffy and Usopp are of course excited to be at Elbaf. And then they try to find the Thousand Sunny. So and yeah, so basically, something the locals are concerned about, saying reporting something to the Sun God. Now, it's not the Sun God, obviously, because that'd be Luffy. They'd be talking about someone else, but they're basically then, you know, yeah. So basically, they're just introducing Elbaf. That's what this episode is. It's introducing Elbaf. So yeah, I thought this was a really good episode. Dude, it's so freaking funny. Like it was so funny, and like Nami and Usopp they were like dealing with the cat and the whole it was some classic humor. But yeah, I thought it was a really good episode. Looking forward to the next one. Kagurabachi Chapter 118. So in this chapter, so yeah, so the Shiba's group talks with the Mikaboshi. Basically, like things are getting tense, and basically based on pre-chapter, we know that the talks are gonna fail, and like yeah, so basically, the Mikaboshi guy says, the prices, the areas like that were mentioned, and then and the Donseki, that's like basically like like the Mikaboshi's price. And so you see like the fight, the Mikaboshi uses sorcery to fight off the swordsman. and then and yeah, so and yeah, so then basically so you see yeah, and you see like looks like there's something like a flash where there was like a VHS tape of like I guess some recording of Shima testifying about the Hiroshima conference. And dude, looks like a bunch of people are about to die there. So yeah, I thought it was and like yeah. So I thought this was a good chapter. Yeah, we're seeing beginning the Sele War, and we're seeing like everything's about to happen. So yeah, I thought it was a really good chapter. Looking forward to the next one. Ultimate Exorcist Kiyoshi, chapter 88. So in this chapter, Kiyoshi's trying to exorcise Bobo like 100 times, and so he's just repeatedly like basically cutting him apart, like killing him in order to exorcise him. And yeah, so and he keeps doing. He does some big attacks. Now, one thing Boba does, he like sacrifices some his lives in order to like increase his power level. So obviously that means there's less times that Kiyoshi needs to like actually exercise him. Yeah. And then basically, obviously Kiyoshi's wondering why Bubba's basically about putting him in a coffin. And so yeah, so you see both of them doing big attacks. And Kiyoshi goes into cross crest mode. And like so he's like a lot more powerful than he was when he fought Sudaroth. So yeah, and Kiyoshi remembers when Beelzebub talked about, Bobo, you know, having changed on the, when his mother died. And Kiyoshi tells Bobo to get up and tells him to bring it. So it looks like Kiyoshi's gonna try, based on his facial expression, the flat and the brief little flashback with Beelzebub. It looks like that Kiyoshi's gonna try to figure out what happened to Bobo, like basically hash things out. Like so that could lead a possibility of Bobo not dying. Like that's a possibility. We'll see what happens. But yeah, I thought it was a really good chapter. Looking forward to the next one. Into the Witch, chapter 78. So in this chapter, so the keepers have you've arrived in the area, and basically, so like you have the two from the previous chapter, Boxster and Higurashi. They see the real Descaras, and it's like you see Descaras describe herself like, and yeah, and then so basically then like so so they're there to like meet like basically to reveal like they introduce themselves and then they're there to and Ichi like looks at Higarashi's sword. Yeah, and he notices how it's sucked up magic, and then when Descaris tells Ichi to basically like back off, where you know Higurashi here notices Ichi's ain't looks at Ichi's like, oh, and so basically so the magic keepers have arrived in order at the Witches Matinal Association in order to recruit Ichi because simply one because Ichi's a dude. Basically, the Magic Keepers are all men. while as the witches are all women. Now, the witches are trying to get the magic keepers to help in a joint mission against World Hater. But the magic keepers, they don't deal with magics. Their authority is for dealing with humans who abuse magic. So it's a jurisdiction issue. It's basically the magic keepers. They exist. They're established by the government in order to make sure the Matinal Witches Association doesn't gain too much influence. Like essentially what basically it's a deterrent. And yeah, so and yeah, and basically they're the only group that can basically holds power that's can stand up to full-fledged witches. And apparently the magics they don't hunt magics. And but and yeah, so looks like the guy hey Chun who is the commissioner of the magic keepers, he keeps saying no. And so and then and, basically the head witch asks him why do they want to recruit Ichi, and they say because he's a man, and witches are exclusively women, magic keepers are exclusively men, so it's tradition. Now he kind of says it as a joke, but he says it basically says it's actually his ability they want. And basically having a team member who can directly do handle magic would actually really help the organization. And then and basically so the Money Gold, who's who's that one says that Ichi's on a mission, he could be away for a while. Then Raishi says that Ichi appears with Higurashi and Boxster, and then and basically yeah, so they talking they I guess they were talking about swords or whatever, like their weapons or whatever. And then Ichi looks at someone and then he jumps and he and this one magic key randomly start fighting, sparring. Everyone's like, "What the heck?" And then Ichi hugs the dude, and he's like, "Hey, it's been a while." And it's revealed to be Ichi's old friend Minakata. So it was get so that's how the chapter ends. So I guess everyone's gonna be they know each other. That'd be my bet. Their reaction would be. But yeah, I thought this was a good chapter. Introducing the Magic Keeper. So this other group coming in, how that relates to the World Hater. That's you know basically so that could be interesting how that affects how the fight goes. So yeah, I thought this was a you know it was I thought it was a good chapter. With the World Hater of course being an enemy, it's gonna be interesting. So yeah, I thought this was a really good chapter. Looking for the next one. Spy Family, chapter 132. So yeah, so this chapter starts with the Frankie and Anya, watching TV, basically they're watching I guess some cartoon called Thunder Mole Mark II, and yeah. So Anya's like, "Yeah, that was great." And basically she's like and, I guess they change it to to I guess to whatever the romance show program that Lloyd and Yor were dealing with were at, and I guess they weren't aware of what was going on. Then they see Yor, and Frankie's like, wait, what? And like Anya doesn't know why you're acting all flirty with the stranger, not knowing what's. Then they see the romance and like it's funny. Yeah, Frankie's commentary, like basically, like about I guess the women not saying anything. He's like, men aren't psychic. If only we could remind. If we could get anyone we want. And like Anya's thinking, wait, psychics are popular? So that bit was funny. So you see like I guess like how it ends. And apparently everyone like and all the I guess they're like, yeah, it's a wrap. And I guess all the everyone liked the ending. And, Becky, you have people crying. Becky was like she preferred the original route, I guess that everyone hated, but she said that I guess the new ending had its moments. I mean, you know, you do have to stick the landing, like in an ending. Like it is definitely like, especially if it's a serialized thing. I mean, you do. If it's a serialized story, it is a lot. There's a lot more pressure to stick the landing. If it's like procedural, like each episode is very standalone, there's not as much pressure because you kind of could do like a standalone episode. I mean, just a fact, just because everything's standalone. But you do have to stick the landing. And so you have Frankie was like, "What is this crappy soap opera dialogue more than anything you ever seen?" This, and he says the sets look like cardboard cutouts. So he's unknowingly roasting the designs that Lloyd did. And Anya's commentary is that there wasn't any fighting, so it's boring. I kind of respect that because I freaking hate romance series. That's why I don't really like them. Like, yeah, it's a bunch of melodrama. I'm like, can y'all shut up already? I mean, I'm of the that's my I'm with Frankie on this one. And and the guy who was leading to her say, lift the lockdown, the elevator, and basically he tells everyone good work, and he said he's sure police gonna have questions for everyone, and everyone is like, y'all did a good job. We'll distract them while you get away, and basically they say the minister of broadcasting is the one who deserves basically to get executed. Lloyd's concerned because it's like it's about the audience and staff growing sympathetic to the terrorists. That could be a problem. And the guy shoots the gun in the air, and he tells them to get their head out of the closet. He said they're terrorists. Like he said, look, we committed a criminal act. We stake their lives on it, and don't. He said, who said you could jump in the bank? He says they'll surrender, and we'll accept the consequences. And that's what they do. And so that's what they do. They surrender, and then I guess Yuri's boss tells him to leave, like sends a message, and yeah, and Lloyd says tells for yes, says for Yuri get changed, and he sees yours like sweat where he's wondering, and he asks Yor what's wrong. He said, hey, you can stop me, but and Yor just like jumps at him, like her like buries her head like on his chest, says that she was scared. And Lloyd like puts his arms around her, saying, "Hey, it's all right, it's all." And Yuri tells him to get his hands off, and Yor like baits his like Lloyd's chest, and I guess it really hurts. And she's saying that like what if like she was like what if when she asked Lloyd what if he was what if he was shot and killed when like he went in front of the gun whenever the guy pointed at her, and like she was scared about him dying. And she asked for Lloyd to promise not to do it again. And their faces are really close, so you see Lloyd, like you're just like blushing, then jumping away. And she asks you, "Hey, if Lloyd died, what would happen? What would happen to Anya?" And Yuri's like, "Well, Yuri tells Yor that Lloyd was being a meat shield for her, like to protect her, and Yor's like that near them need to do that." And Lloyd says he probably says he said, hey, you don't need to worry, he wasn't gonna die. And Yor says that that he would die, and you see her face looking like the Thorn Princess, and she says people die, they can die just like that. And like that is Lloyd's first interaction with seeing her face as like a Thorn Princess face, not like the I guess as simple, stupid, happy Yor. And so like the closest he ever got to that was when Yor was drunk in the whole celebration thing. And and Yuri's noticing that Yor said the same thing that Chloe did, I guess a few chapters ago. And Yuri says, he doesn't like to admit, but if Lloyd were to die, like Yor would cry. So he says, don't die. And Lloyd says, yeah, he says he's sorry that he worried him. It was like, and he remembers, when he told Nightfall to, I guess not get emotional. So he starts thinking about all of his emotion, like I guess some emotions he think about, like he had to like, I guess whatever most and like he says, for a second mission, he should prioritize her, but yours is essential to Operation Strix. So he's thinking about like, the priority, protecting the family, protecting the mission. Then he hears, he and Yor hear Anya calling for them, and then you see like, uh, you know, Anya and Becky were riding a black belt armored truck. Basically, you had them. Like it's funny. You had them like Martha like driving, and then so Anya gets out with her Stella saying saying she's there to like use the Stella to fight the bad guys, and Lloyd's like the bad guys have been arrested, and Anya's like dang it, she's like wondering how come only Lloyd and Yon uh, Lloyd and Yor had them out, and Yor's like there wasn't any fighting. And like I it was like, wait, why is Yuri here? Like it's so fun. And Becky calls Yuri like your senior disciple. It's so funny. And see a bunch of people noticing your, and I guess someone saying they're from Group 4 Culture Productions, and and basically your doesn't want to get recruited. Now that's something that could come up. Like yours gonna gain notoriety for what happened, and that could cause problems regards to you know basically you have some people try to with her work as a Thorn Princess, her notoriety could draw eyes. Same with Twilight doing all his stuff, and then yeah, and Martha tells everyone to get aboard before they're surrounded by I guess paparazzi or whatever. And Frankie I guess is concerned about secret police being there. And Becky compliments Yor for I guess how she was as Bumbleina. And and Becky asked why Lloyd was on screen. It's so funny. And Lloyd and I guess Yor both tired, and Lloyd's hoping everyone would basically shut up. And Anya asks if the truck has a bazooka. It's so funny. And so Yor says her that playing the part is hard, and Lloyd says that she's right about it. So that's how the chapter ends. So obviously, basically, this chapter, the whole like like hostage situations dealt with. That is dealt with. Now comes the aftermath. How are people at the school going to react to basically Anya's stepmother being in? Is Anya going to become more popular? Everyone's like, hey, can you get me a contact with your? You know, like basically like Anya's. it's gonna gain some notoriety from it. And then of course, your Twilight, how their works as spy and assassin respectively, going to be affected by your being on like being on that. Like that is going to affect things, and like there's especially if if like the cops hear like a testimony from the terrorists saying talking about what Lloyd was saying about some of his past, that could lead some people looking into his past and trying to find something. Now, I don't know how in depth Lloyd's backstory has been developed by Wise. They should be on the clock about that. Trying to keep all their because if there are gaps in what Lloyd says he's done in his past compared to what's on public record, that is going to cause problems. Like there is some fallout that could come from this. And I don't know how close we are to the end of Spy Family, but I could see this lead into an in game like an in game scenario just due to like your being on TV, Lloyd helping out with sets, that could really affect things. But yeah, I thought it was a good chapter. Looking forward to the next one. Under Doctor, chapter 12. So in this chapter, Haiji has finished like basically hitting himself to like power himself up. Basically, to calls it his trump card called Overload. It's not necessarily, I guess, a healthy technique. So he does it in order so that he can actually damage Maxwell. And he's actually able to do it. He's actually able to see the pressure points of where to damage him, and he's able to like hit him. So his like speed and strength are like increase a lot, and so basically, and Maxwell's kind of forgotten how what pain felt like, and I guess he's first time he's bled in a while. Because the last time he I guess hurt himself, he basically tripped while chasing a butterfly. So like he's never actually been hurt by someone. So now it's the first time he's actually done that. And Haiji tells him to basically surrender, and Maxwell says no because basically yeah. And so he's kind of excited. So he came there to kill Haiji because he was hired by someone, and so and then basically Maxwell says that Haiji's the only one who can save him. Now by saving him, he means kill him. Basically, Maxwell has suicidal ideation. So basically, he basically wants to die, but any way that any method that can be used to kill someone has never worked on him because of how strong his body is. Like apparently he has tried to like shoot himself, stab himself, but he couldn't die. Yeah, and apparently he had tried to live for other people, like how Haiji told him 3 years before. But and there was nothing wrong with the people I guess he's been with, and he considered them good people. But he says that he's himself is the problem. And apparently Maxwell's 80 years old. Yeah. And basically Maxwell's wondering if he's even human, if he's not, whether or not he's just a monster. And yeah. So and then basically Maxwell like punches through a wall and you see like, gets a patient and Maxwell asks if Haiji has a reason to kill him, so Haiji then attacks him. So you see the fight and then Haiji says, that, sees how like he says that Maxwell is floundering, suffering. He says that Maxwell's a proper human, and he says tells Maxwell he wants to help him. So you see Maxwell's reaction, and that's how the chapter ends. So based on Maxwell's reaction, you see Maxwell not being suicidal by the time this ends. But yeah, I thought it was a good chapter. Like the fight was awesome. You seen like some like how Maxwell and Kaiji interact. Like that was cool. So yeah, I thought it was a good good chapter. Looking forward to the next one. Kinato's Magic, Chapter 11. So in this chapter, so Kinato is fighting the guy with the skull mask, and so he's like really interested for using Seitan magic on himself. Basically, last time he used it, he was he was he was trying to save his friend, he was trying to save Line, and basic and basically he had really hurt himself and he almost died. So and that basically what Line was saying. So then it goes over to back to Kinato. So Kinato's really hurt, and he was already hurt from previously, but now he's just really messed up. So the guy's like, I can't, yeah, you power yourself, but I can't believe how weak you are. And then, yeah, and then, basically Talius and Juna try to help Kinato, fight the guy. So you see him like, we're all work together to fight, and you see, Talius remembering when Jien saved him, guess from a monster a while back. And then, yeah, so, basically they fight the guy, and yeah, so Juno seems like basically the guy that does the attack and Juno's kind of like knocked out. So it's basically Kiyoto and Talius versus the guy. So and they fight him, and then but Juno's able to get back up. So everyone does uses their respective magic, and Kiyato's able to punch get an opening to punch the guy's weapon. Then he's able to punch the guy, and that's how the chapter. And so basically he knocks him hard, and Kiyoto tells him to get out of town, and we'll see what happens next chapter, like what happens with that fight. So definitely interesting. It's probably I'm assuming it's related to the whatever meeting Jien's at. But yeah, I thought it was a good chapter. Looking forward to the next one. Alien Headbutt, Chapter 10. So in this chapter, um, so um, Shirokiba puts the little parasite thing inside Tatsumi, and when they do it, it looks like it stops the bleeding, and I guess it's starting to heal him. And so yeah, so Shirokiba's basically just tired, like he is tired, and you know, and then he remembers that he has to go save his sister Yuki, so he climbs up the little tower to get to Yuki, and he remembers when he left, Yuki gave him some money, and it basically says he'll he'll have to pay her back with the Chanel necklace and get some clothes to go with it. I don't think he bought any of that unless it was in the whatever luggage he brought back with him. So he pulls Yuki out, and so Yuki's awake, and and so Shiroki was happy to finally be reunited with with Yuki because but you saw the rest of the family, and basically he says he won the championship, and yeah, so and it's funny. Yuki asked about the necklace, and Shiroki was like, "You're really asking that now? You're ruining the moment." And then so like these aliens arrive, like the ones from the end of the last chapter. Then they arrive asking about if he had killed Zoldra, and Truba asks who the two are. You have the spiky guy and the guy on the motorcycle. Spiky guy asks demands for Shirokira to answer the question, and he'll kill him. So it looks like we have a confrontation next chapter between I guess whoever the big bads are. But yeah, I thought this was a good chapter. You know, one family member saved. Tatsumi seemingly saved. See how the rest of the series goes. But yeah, I thought it was a good chapter. Looking forward to the next one. Rooster Fighter, episode 5. So in this episode, Keiji's kind of become like a viral sensation, like due to someone who like was originally like trying to record bugs and stuff, capturing bugs. Ended up recording Keiji's fight with the demon. Basically went viral. He started getting lots. I guess the guy got a lot of success as like a VTuber or whatever. I guess an in-universe version of the YouTube. Hey, I guess by copyright reasons they can't directly say YouTube. And Keiji's annoyed by everyone trying to catch him, where all the humans trying to catch him. And he gets annoyed. Basically, I guess he has an argument with Elizabeth and Pyoko. So Keiji goes off on his own, and Elizabeth and Pyoko are stuck together. Keiji comes across a basically casino, and he meets Morio, who's a demon. Now it's like a friendly demon, basically not one that tries to kill people, but basically there's a human who like he was told he had cancer. He had really not done much in his life, and so he had wanted and the demon was born out of the human's strong desire to live, and so and I guess the Morio promised the human that he would live like for both him and the human. Then the human gets a call that he doesn't have cancer, so he goes off to like basically live a good life, as far as we know, and Morio like shrinks into like he gets smaller to like human size, whatever. Like he's like gets bullied by people, but he's just basically like a friendly guy. So he and Keiji, befriend each other. So basically, like, and Keiji's happy that there are, I guess, good demons around. And then Elizabeth Pyoko, they come across a girl named Misuku, during the storm, and then basically Misuku's caring for her sick grandfather who can't really move. Like he needs like a wheelchair in order to get around. And then a flood is about to happen, and basically a dam breaks. So like the whole town's about to flood. So and the four of them struggle to get out. And you see Mario looking at the dam about to break, and like the dam's not broken yet, but it's about to break. So it sets up a cliffhanger for like Mario, I guess, trying to help save the village. So yeah, I thought it was a good episode. Definitely interesting. We have a good um demon like drill I mean, we definitely know how Freeren's reaction would be to Morio. Yeah, and it was funny to see KG get drunk, and like every time he vomits, it's all like rainbows and stuff. And yeah, now I don't know if like basically it looks like rainbows because of censorship reasons, or like kind of like how they blurred out the vomit in Chainsaw Man, which honestly kind of made it funnier, and or if it's because basically was done as a joke, I guess, in the story. I don't know. I've not read the manga where, but yeah, it is so funny. KG eating like frozen or like urchin that's not fresh. I guess when it's not fresh, it tastes like crap. But yeah, I thought it was a really good episode. Looking forward to the next one. Duck Dynasty: The Revival, Season 2, Episode 6. So in this episode, so there's kind of like three like plot points going on. One of them is like so basically so Willie wants to build a BMX track whatever obstacle course for the family, like basically for the grandkids whatever, at like the family compound. And John Luke is concerned about safety. Willie gets Cy, John Reed, and Martin to help out to basically get John Luke more on the side of it being dangerous to like basically so like Willie's like he's becoming more like Jace as I guess as he's I guess not more as involved with the company. He's becoming more like Jace in guards. He's like basically so like they basically go to junkyard, grab some stuff. You see these like probably rusted metal, probably based stuff that would probably require tetanus shot, which one of the women bring up when they and so you see they set it up. Everyone else sees it. All the women are like, no, we are not laying the kids on this, because like they're concerned about like safety and all that. Then they're able to like, and John Luke tries to do like a test run. I don't know if it's like the chain comes off or he just sucks at riding. Who knows? Or both. But then they are able to like they take out all like the dangerous metal stuff that I guess would be a safety concern for little kids. And so, it becomes a fun little like, BMX track for everyone. Size thinks, he says, he thinks they should go back to having all the danger stuff like flamethrower. Like there was like a fire thing. And so another subplot was like so Little Will and his wife Abby they move back to West Monroe. They move in with Willie and Corey while they trying to find a place to live. And they brought their dog Ollie with them, and I guess Ollie likes Will because I guess Ollie likes dudes with beards. And so yeah, and he's concerned because basically he likes having his son around, his sons and daughter-in-law around, but he doesn't want him to basically stay there permanently. Like he wants them to find their own place that so they can be self-sufficient, whatever. And he's trying to find ways to nudge them on without basically coming across like a prick, or whatever. And Sai somehow gives good advice, and it's funny. I think it was like Martin's like, "Since when are you the voice of reason?" and, yeah, I was like, man, like Sai actually gives good advice on how to handle it, like nudge them along, like basically, like everyone's trying to figure out, basically, make them. One of the Sai suggestions was make them pay rent, as a way to get them to basically get out, and then maybe go along with them in searching for places. And so Willie and Corey talk with Little Will and Abby about it, and basically Little Will's like, "Oh yeah, we already found the place. Yeah, we just found the place. Yeah, we got that taken care. We just got basically they just got to move out." And Willie's like, "Oh, okay, okay, yeah." So basically, like, yeah. So it seems like Lil Will and Abby they were already working on it, and and yeah, so I guess there was some issues. I guess I guess Ollie was not exactly fully may not have been fully potty trained. Lil Will like I guess sings a lot. Like he sings like he does some singing, and like basically I guess some of his singing was like happening during like business call, like Willie's business calls with her while he's trying to sleep, and they joke, and like Willie and Corey joke was like, well, he's not the worst house guest, and flashes back to Jace when he and Missy, like, their house was being, I think it was fumigated, like in the old Duck Dynasty show. And they basically had Jace, you had, well, I think you had like all the crawfish in the bathtub. You had, I think there was like a dead beaver or something. Yeah, that episode, too, which that was a funny Duck Dynasty episode. And then the third plot point go on this episode is regards to Bella and Jacob. So obviously they've had issues having kids, so they're trying to figure out what to do. They have like basically they have like an appointment like 6 weeks from at least a point that this episode was recorded. I don't know how long ago this was filmed. Like I don't know, it may have been like a year ago, so probably that point where it's already happened. And like so basically Bell Jacob, they've had issues having kids, you know, and so they're talking about, so Sai and Rebecca give Jacob and Bella odd advice respectively. So, okay, some of the advice involves eating testicles of animals. Like, I guess as a way to help, I guess, open the pathways or where to like, and like, do like, so like, it is actually really funny where when Sai's at like basically like, so basically like they all like basically all everyone at the office who's talking with Jake about, and of course they want to try to help out. They want, and so like like he asked basically like 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 it like I was busting out laughing like the whole conversation. And so wait, Sai's idea of getting Jacob to eat some, like, I think it's like bull testicles, where it's to make a competition for like, it was like Jacob, Christian, to like see, like, basically for them to see who can eat the most balls, like bull balls. I think Christian wins if I've ever yeah. And like, I mean, because they're making joke is like, man, y'all getting so excited over nuts, where, and then Rebecca like talks about to Bella about, like, I guess I think it's like chicken testicles or something. Like, it's kind of like, because you have like, obviously you have like some, I guess, small companies that give like various organs from like as bison, bulls, whatever, of to eat, whether it's for like weight loss reasons, I guess for conception reasons, or whatever. I don't know. Like, I don't deal with any of that. I've never dealt with any of that, so I don't necessarily know how any of that works. And then, basically they're trying, like, Bell and Jacob are trying to figure some stuff out before, and they go to like some doctor something before, and Jacob basically asks if he's getting the needle in his balls, and the lady says, no. And Jacob's like, all right, good. And I mean, I agree. I wouldn't want a needle anywhere near any of that stuff. And so, like, basically, it is funny. So in the whole conversation, Sadie tells Rebecca is like, if basically she's like, if she says Tesco's one more time, she's going to ask her to leave, because she like it, like basically it is so funny. Like all the scenes that are so funny because you can tell they're intentionally just trying to make jokes out of, like, dude, they're eating balls. You're not, like, they're gonna get some jokes out of it. Like, and yeah, so yeah, I thought it was a good episode. Freaking funny, like, dude, Sai was on point this episode. Like, anyone who remembers Psy in the old show, dude, this was like some peak Psy humor right there. Like, this is Like it is a like basically it is some peak humor in this. And yeah, I thought this was a really good episode. Looking for the next one. Roku's House of Oddities, Chapter 2. So in this episode, yeah, so Akari, is you know basically trying to figure out who all these curses are. So he knows that he doesn't know any of their names, so they all introduce themselves. So you have Sachiko, Kabaneji. You have the king. Now his real name is Johan. And what's funny, before he doesn't want to give his real name, but then someone come up with, hey, let's go with some fake names and that's why he introduced as Johan. Now tries to figure out how the dog to speak, and then the speech recognition, some translator um pick it up, and basically his name is Gavadan. And then you have Ultra, and yeah, and I guess Ultra doesn't speak a lot, and so then they you know basically Johan points at the game console, like the Noroi, which looks like a Nintendo Wii, and he asks what it is, and basically you know Akari tries to explain it, and and so basically tries to show everyone the game called Monster Breaker, and then once he's tried, everyone try to explain, and then it seems like they're able to, like, I guess, like, since he's like their curses are tied to him right now, I guess, like, they're able to, like, understand some things. So he tries to help them play, like, they start playing, they guess learn more how the game works, and like different games. You have like Big Panic, another one, and so then yeah, so they play like Noroi Party, like everyone works together to build like a house or whatever out of like suites. And so after a few rounds, they're able to get it done, and they basically end up on like the leaderboard, which is like very hard to do. And so Akari's excited because they've taken the first step into getting to know each other, but then apparently it was undone by Johan making a name, the team name, the Great King, and four others plus one dog. It's so funny. So yeah, I thought it was a really good chapter. Thought it was really funny. Interested in seeing how this how this goes. So yeah, I thought it was a good chapter. Looking for the next one. Wistoria, Wand and Sword, Season 2, Episode 1. So in this episode, so Will gets like perfect scores on like all bunch of the finals, so he's basically only like a few he's basically, if he passes the last exam, he's gonna reach the tower. And a lot of teachers are excited for him. And then now the Magia vendors are preparing for Terminale, which is the annual festival to rebuild the barrier protecting Urbis Garden. Basically, it always takes place at the end of the school year. Now, Edward gives the last exam, and basically, it's all one question. The students have to write, "What is magic?" They have to give an answer. Basically, he wrote he did the question specifically so Will would fail. Now, Werkner confronts Edward about it. He argues that basically, like, Edward, like, basically it's not fair for like making a question with one student in mind. Edward says he like basically he wants to nip Will's during the bud because due to him Will not having magic, now he has Whis. That's a different thing. But with Will not being able to, I guess, produce his own magic, him being like a Manga Vander is basically not a realistic dream. And in his mind, so he basically he believes that the kindest thing to do for Will is to just put the dream to bed early, so he doesn't deal with disappointment later. So it seems like Edward like is trying to show some tough love for Will. He doesn't like completely hate him. And so you have like, basically, some of the others so obviously, some of the students are concerned, so you know, Colette, Scion, um Wignall, Liana, they're trying to find Will. Now, Rosty's with Will, trying to comfort him. Now so a previous thing where so Will falls asleep while studying before the final test with Edward, and Colette sees him asleep, tries to kiss him, and Rusty like says something. Colette stops, and Colette claims she was trying to like put a coat on, and and Colette says that she hates the Magia Vander for basically Will pushing himself so hard to get to reach Elfie, and Rosti like kind of agrees. Now, it's meant to be heavily. It's heavily implied that Rosti's a basically like a male clone of Elfie that she controls with magic. It's been heavily implied, but it's generally not confirmed. And then yeah, so and then like basically yeah, so and Workner tells them to like enjoy themselves while he searches for Will. Now Julius claims to not be concerned about what now Sion he says he wants to defeat Will in the tower, like, and now there's no chance of that happening. Now the festival starts and at midnight the Magavander reconstruct the barrier, but a bunch of monsters are teleported in this city and start attacking her. So Mars and Headless they wait until the Magavander used up their magic to reconstruct the barrier to start the attack. So yeah, there's a big attack going on. So looks like big fights going on now. Obviously now Will he was 1 point short of reaching the tower. Like he was 1 point short. Like so now depending on how things go, of course, based on the previous, he's going to get in the fight. So, you know, guess a lot of people assume, okay, his dream ending this soon, long before I guess series would be in, as far as the manga is concerned. Yeah, doesn't make much sense. So obviously, something's going to happen to get Will in the tower, or at least have a chance. Obviously. Now, I have seen the spoilers of some details of what happens. Like, not I don't know exactly what happens. I haven't read this far into the manga. Like, yeah, I can't remember how far I got. It's been a little while since I last read it, but yeah, because I read on K manga. So yeah, I thought it was a decent episode. Like, I'm still not a fan of Will's motivation being basically to be with a girl. I'm not a fan of that being his motivation for being a Magia Vander. Like, I like it more like if it was like Asta's motivation in Black Clover, where basically he wanted to or Astra's goal is to show that even the guy with no magic can basically, I guess, but basically become the Wizard King. Like that is such a better like, or Rock Lee and Naruto show that a guy who can only do taijutsu could still be a good ninja. Like you see those like Deku, Lasta, Rock Lee, Mash Burn Dead. Their goals were to be like effective like in their chosen field where Deku being superhero. Of course he was given power by All Might, but he started off as quirkless, so he had like a work ethic basically all like a already ingrained in him just due to the fact he didn't have powers. And of course now, he's quirkless again and using like a suit of armor. But yeah, so like Will obviously he has a work ethic, like a strong work ethic, and everyone respects that. But his motivation being to be with a girl, I just don't like. I wish it was more on the lines of like and this isn't even a parody. It feels like a parody. Like it feels like a parody thing. Like that been one thing. Like just making it like that been one thing, and you can make a joke out of that. But I still don't like Will's motivation. Like it's not as like basically his motivation of being Manga Manager is to be with the girl. That's not something as strong to root for as like basically is him wanting to prove that someone without magic could become like the top made like hold that top position with like through hard work. That would have been such a better motivation. Like, it's essentially like that's what I would like, but but the world, like the magic school, like everything else is interesting. Like that's the thing. Like I'm trying to like. I mean, the first season is mid, like, and then a lot of it has to do with Will's motivation. Like, basically but like everything, so everything outside of Will is why I continue to watch it because like there's interesting stuff around him. Whereas Will, if I do wish he was more like Asta in his motivations. That is that would have made like that would have really helped this series. But whatever. But yeah, overall, it's a decent episode. Interesting how this battle goes. Looking forward to next episode. Well, and that's it. Did y'all like the stuff I reviewed? And if you have your own opinions about all that, you can put all that in the comments. Thank you for watching, and like, subscribe, and all that. And look forward to the next video.